it's fine to lose. It sucks, right? But it's not the end of the world. And try to like focus on our next upcoming games.
저희가 조금 이긴 상태니까 편하게 할 수 있지 않을까 생각하고 있어요.
我就感觉他是一个很全面、很强的三单。我会尽出全力的打吧，就怎么赢他就不好说，就尽全力吧。
I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, your group is going to be easy." To me, I see it as 3 teams that can beat us at any given day.
这个就非常兴奋，因为这边的观众都非常热情，不管是有名气还是没有名气的队伍，他们都会为你的精彩操作去呐喊。
Oh God! Just walks in. Kobe taking so much damage.
One championship if they can hold.
Taipei Assassins are the Season 2 World Champions. This could be a 20-minute game for SK Telecom.
And Samsung White are the 2014 World Champions.
SKT will be your first ever 2-time World Champions.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Day 3 of the 2016 League of Legends World Championship. With 2 days and 12 matches into the books, we're just getting started as our competitors fight to be one of the 8 teams that will advance to the quarterfinals. In Chicago, the thunder sticks are waving, the fan signs have been made, and everybody is ready for some serious action, hopefully just as eventful as the previous 2 days have been. We've seen upsets, we've seen resurgences. CLG here made their way into the building earlier today, preparing to do battle in their second group stage match. SKT is locked in, ready to face IMA later in the day. The guys seen here in the practice rooms. Now RNG also hard at work, getting some last-minute practice. Everyone, hello. Thank you for watching with us. I'm James Dash Patterson, anchoring the analyst desk, where I'm joined. Today's panel of experts is James Stress O'Leary from the European LCS. We've got LCK commentator Christopher Papa Smithy Smith and the North American LCS's Sam Kobe Hartman Kensler. We're back for Day 3, gentlemen. The crowd is hyped. Are you hyped? Is the energy still flowing through your veins?
Oh, yes. Very much so, James.
All right, well, let's get right into it. Yesterday, we got our first look at the 4 teams in Group B, meaning all 16 squads have been on stage at least once so far. And with that in mind, I want to ask you guys what has stood out so far in our first 2 days of play.
I mean, the big story, Day 2, was all about the expected favorites, the strong teams coming in and really performing. Day 1 was about the upsets. The Brazilian team took out the first seed from China. That was the big upset. Did that set the tone for Day 2? No, but we already know now everything's possible.
Very much so, and of course, then we have to look at the LPL making some moves yesterday with EDG picking up their first win after a disappointing Day 1, Stress.
Exactly, we had a bit of a bounce back, although a lot of the casters were talking about it's a little bit more like a wet tennis ball than actually a bounce back, but nevertheless, EDG picked themselves up a win on the board. But the real team from China that we have to focus on their performance from yesterday was RNG. Perhaps one of the most dominating games we've seen at a Worlds ever, with the amount that they just ran over Splice. Uzi and Mata in that bottom lane just straight up out 2v2ing the Splice duo, and it just looked clinical from there. The amount of damage Uzi was putting out on that Ezreal was insane.
I gotta say, I think Uzi heard when I didn't mention him in the top 3 Ezreals at the tournament. Proved me wrong. Really nice performance from him. Not a legacy Ezreal, but obviously been scrimming it and looked great.
Important to note that they are topping their group 2-0 right now, but Kobe, TSM made a resurgence themselves yesterday, too.
TSM also did pick themselves up. We mentioned EDG. Similar resurgence there for TSM as they went back to a very similar strategy. They had strong lanes. They picked a strong early jungler in Lee Sin again for Svenskeren, being one of the highlights for the team. And he had 26% time counter jungling once again, returning to their North American stats, basically, the normal season, the way they used to play the game.
And this is the TSM that we expected to see coming into the tournament. Also, something that, kind of we can key off of games like that, the rise in the power of Syndra here on Day 1, as well as Lee Sin for certain players like Svenskeren.
And Day 2 definitely didn't happen in a vacuum. Remember, this was the day where Aurelion Sol was disabled, And actually, I think that this was the kind of situation where you have a new variable, a champion that you've been practicing, you've been scrimming. We all heard, I'm sure, in hushed tones that Aurelion Sol was going to be a big pick at this tournament. It's disabled. And I think the analysts and coaches were the real ones to track yesterday, because the big story is a lot of analysts that I spoke to before the tournament said, Aurelion Sol, that's the strong pick against Syndra coming into yesterday. Lots of first pick Syndras, lots of Syndras dominating, and not many resources left to really answer it.
Yeah, the pick ban has become increasingly important. With the caliber of the teams here, all it takes is a strong matchup and then maybe one mistake from the enemy team for these teams to identify what their strong point is and play off of that. It's so much stronger for you to play off of a winning lane than try and cover a weakness right now. We've actually seen this with SKT, right? They got the Syndra very early, and as soon as they got just one mistake from Jensen, Bangi moves in, and you see the vision balloon around Faker. If you go back and watch those games, he has 360-degree coverage of vision with which to have the confidence to push up between turrets and continue to bully Jensen completely out of the game. So, you know, moving forward, all of the top teams are identifying their strongest point on the map and then playing off that.
Now, on that note, Aurelion Sol is still disabled today, but will be re-enabled tomorrow on day 4 of groups. So have no fear. He is returning to the Rift. We will get to see how teams then readjust to the, the reintroduction of that champion. Let's turn now, though, to the standings coming into day 3 of groups. CLG and ROX Tigers lead Group A. IMA and SKT have the edge in Group B. Group C is tied across the board at 1-1. And then, of course, RNG leads Group D with a 2-0 record. Of course, those standings are sure to change today as Groups A, B, and D compete, starting with North America's Counterlogic Gaming and the LCL's Albus Nox Luna. Then ROX Tigers do battle with G2 Esports, and after that, Group B takes over with the LMS's Flash Wolves versus North America's Cloud9. Of course, for those of you looking for an alternative angle on the competition, you're in luck over on Riot Games 2. We're featuring the Player Experience stream. Our casters are joined by special guests in Nori and Frog to tackle individual matchups and deliver high-level analytical commentary throughout the day. Each matchup, has a new focus with questions from fans answered live on air. It's time to get into the action, so let's send it over to the casters for Game 1.
Thank you very much, Dash. I'm a fan of your satin tie knot over there. I'm Quickshot, joined by Jat and Azael, and we are getting set for our first match of the day between the North American contenders, Counterlogic Gaming, and the CIS representatives, Albus Nox Luna. Now, Albus Nox, they actually gave us an exciting kill-heavy start to the tournament, up against ROX Tigers of all teams.
Yeah, for the first 13 minutes of the game, they were playing them even, and you're starting to think maybe they'd have a chance there, but they weren't able to keep it under control, so to speak, and the game quickly ran away from them after that.
Yeah, they were playing very chaotic, and they need to be able to transition those kills into more control in the game. Even when they were winning fights, they were losing lanes and heavily down in CS.
Yeah, so we're looking for control if they can get those early kills against CLG. And talking about CLG, they had an incredibly dominant win over G2. It didn't look like they were really challenged by the European #1s, and it was more like an MSI style.
Yeah, it really was. They attacked G2 in the pick and ban. They drafted for very strong 2v2. Afro on the Nami, Stixay on that Caitlyn, and they had Darshan sacrificing his lane, playing for the team. Very reminiscent of CLG at MSI.
I really like the way they played. Almost seems like the summer split slump didn't happen, and they're suddenly back in here. Also a note, Aurelion Sol, as they mentioned on the analyst desk, will be re-enabled tomorrow, and it will be unavailable for today's pick and ban. But for CLG, it'll affect them a little bit. I think they'll be fine with Vladimir into Syndra if they wanted to do that like they did in G2. And they're not going to be taking Albus Nox Luna lightly. They lost to Supermassive at MSI. They lost to Pain at Worlds in 2015. So CLG knows that they have to respect these regions that come in through the wildcard qualifier.
Especially when you take a look at the fact that win here means they could go 2-0 on the day. Only ROX Tigers left in the group stage. A first-place seed at the end of week 1 is something not many people would have predicted or expected of CLG, but it starts with a clean win. So, yes, CLG, they do have the edge here in San Francisco. They arrived in a familiar position, being the underdog at another international tournament.
I mean, even when we were going to MSI, teams were like, why is CLG going to MSI? I think TSM would have done better, and things like that. And we definitely proved them wrong. I feel like we proved a lot of people wrong, and we surprised a lot of people. And I think we're going into this tournament with similar expectations. People don't really have high hopes for us, and I don't really think that changes anything or makes things worse. If anything, it makes things better because people have the perception that we're not good. So then it'll just be that much better when we can prove them wrong and they're not expecting us to be as good as we will be.
And it's not just internationally that these guys are overlooked. It's in regional play as well. In the North American LCS, going into the finals against TSM in the last split, no one thought they were going to win.
Yeah, they ended up doing it, pulling off the surprises. Can they do more? We'll find out. Let's take a quick look at the starting rosters on the blue side. For today, from the North American LCS, it is CounterLogic Gaming. Darshan, the man we just heard from in the top lane, Xmithie in the jungle, Huhi in the mid lane, Stixay AD carry, and his support Aframu with Zix, their coach.
And on the red side, from the CIS, it's Albus, Nox, Luna. In the top lane, it's Smurf. In the jungle, PvP Stayhouse, Kira, your mid laner. And the bot lane duo, A Miracle and Lacrit, with Coach Ansva here to help.
Yeah, and you also wonder how Albus, Nox, Luna is going to be approaching this game. Will they be doing anything a little bit crazy? The brand was essentially the thing that they would have that is their pocket that no one else has. That's very easy to ban away, especially with COG being on the blue side and Huhi being an experienced Syndra player. I see a decent edge that COG has here. They very easily are able to ban away the brand, and they can kind of bait them into either banning the Syndra or being able to take it right away.
Yeah, they can also contest the Bard, which is another high priority champion for Lacrit because Afro is so good on it. So it is going to be tough for them to get those edges, and we'll see if they do have anything in store.
About to jump into picks and bans. 12 for 12, Nidalee has been banned, predominantly on the red side. There is that Bard, that's brand rather. No real surprise. Siva following suit, so no surprises yet. Well, let's see where some of these other priority picks are taken off the table. Shen, a little unconventional, but very targeted towards Smurf.
Yeah, this is a bit of a new ban for COG. As far as the day one bans that these teams had, they were actually both red side on day one, and they both banned Sivir and Nidalee throughout that. But if they were going to try and mix things up, I wonder if that Nidalee is going to come through as a final ban. I personally would not want to give Nidalee to Xmithie, but it's gone down to the last ban. Maybe it happens.
And Caitlyn taking off the table, some respect being shown to Stixay, and he was having a bit of a laugh about that. As he got it once, may not get it again.
That's the funny thing about Stixay's Caitlyn is he comes to the international events, he crushes on it, and then you don't see it in North America, and then all of a sudden he comes back and he's crushing on it again. But shocker, no Nidalee ban.
Oh, wow.
They don't even pick it first.
And the insta-lock on the Syndra there is going to be huge for Huhi. This is a champion he was very comfortable on in the summer split in North America, and in the playoffs as well. He's performed very well on it.
And I think COG was a little bit pressured into doing this when you mention it, because the Aurelion Sol is not available. They picked Vladimir into the Syndra against G2. I think that is their comfort picks as far as going into Syndra, and those were all off the table, so they kind of had to pick it first, and now they're going to be dealing with the Nidalee, but at least there were no other jungle bans, so there's still some high-tier junglers left, like Elise.
Yeah, exactly. Elise, I think, is going to be a great option for Xmithie. He's very comfortable on this, and I'm going to be interested to see where Stixay goes as far as the AD carry role. He was double banned out, Lucian has been taken away, and there has been a lot of kind of disagreement on where these tiers of AD carries are. Some teams are still picking Ashe, some think it's completely not viable. Jhin has seen play, we've even seen hyper carries like Jinx.
A lot of time to figure that answer out. CounterLogic Gaming getting excited in the crowd here in San Francisco, but I'm not expecting the team. What is more likely in this rotation? Probably jungler, not reveal anything more? Or there's no competition for it, right?
Yeah, I think it's the dual lane for them. Obviously, I say that after they started hovering it, but it's because of the way they played against G2, heavily prioritizing the ability to get priority in that bottom lane. I think it is COG's biggest strength as a team, is just the laning phase in general from the bot side. The game is very focused around that, seemingly at Worlds, and they locked down a couple good picks there. Bard was going to be contested anyways.
Yeah, the contested pick, and Afro is someone who gets banned out on Bard all the time in North America. He is known as an incredible Bard player, fantastic roaming, early plays that can be made, and the ultimate, when he hits 6, he's a great engage tool.
Definitely track record that screams great plays on that champion. Kira was hovering the Anivia. It's actually something he's very well known for. Used that in the 1v1 All-Stars event last year. Actually used it to beat out Lion Gaming in the qualifier for Worlds, but has moved away from it. 10 seconds left. Jace, another power pick on the current patch.
Well, especially when they have Nidalee, they can very easily set up for a poke composition. So it's most likely the Tahm Kench in the bottom lane with the Lucian. This Jace can go in the mid lane or the top lane, depending on who they want more practice on with it. So those are generally good for ANX as they're lining up for this. Maybe even Rumble in the top lane for Smurf could make a pretty solid composition, depending on what Darshan's going to be picking against him.
I also like the Tahm Kench quite a bit into the Syndra and the Bard. You can eat up your teammates when they get stunned out. It's a lot of protection against that Syndra, who is normally going to be able to one-combo people if they get ahead. So I think it's a pretty intelligent pick here. And you know, as you said, Rumble available in the top lane. That has been very big so far in Worlds.
We'll have to track how quickly Lecrit moves around the map to actually make use of that ability, and what sort of impact he can have with that Abyssal Voyage. Has the possibility of being very game-changing. So this could be Jace into Syndra, or Jace into Darshan champion. Most likely going to be this Poppy.
And they've played Poppy into Jace before. They're not afraid of the matchup, even though it is an unfavorable one. Because I think in this case, COG is very much picking towards their composition and their team play.
Yeah.
They love the fact that Darshan is a playmaker on it, and they don't really care what he's going to be laning against in this situation.
I think it's very intelligent here, and we saw in the previous game he was willing to really sacrifice his lane. He didn't have high damage, but he had high impact because it's about the teleports, it's about the flanking and the playmaking ability that Poppy provides.
Yeah, and if you think back to that G2 game, it was that teleport down into the bottom lane where Sven was freezing it. It was a good call. It was team play for CLG that came out on top. Albus knocks Luna. Backs against the wall now. Last rotation. Top lane or mid lane? That is what they're discussing. What is left in the champion pool for either role, knowing that obviously Darshan can play against this Poppy and has proven he can beat it?
I think the Rumble is possible for the lane if they want to. Trundle, as they actually lock in, is now going to be going top lane, so they're throwing the Jace down in the mid lane. Trundle wins the stat stick matchup against Poppy for most of the late game, but once again in the early and mid game, the Poppy can have more map impact, so that's what they're being willing to trade into. And it also rounds out their poke composition if you're on ANX right now, because it's the crucial disengage that they need if they want to sit outside of a turret and poke.
I would also say one of the great things about Trundle with these poke compositions is it actually makes your skill shots very easy to hit. You drop a pillar down, it provides a massive slow that kind of lines people up for the Nidalee, for the Jace to land that poke and hopefully push CLG off of these turrets.
A lot of pressure in the hands of Smurf. He's got a pretty good track record on this Trundle. Domestically, 5-1 throughout the summer, excluding the playoffs. And as the team comps on your screen, it feels like another one of those games where if a team gets ahead, the team composition could potentially run away with the game, you know, falling prey to the poke or falling prey to the engages on CLG side.
And I do also think that at the World Championship, we tend to get in this mode of thinking, oh my goodness, the meta is super snowbally right now. When in actuality, what's happening is the teams are really mismatched, so you're getting snowballed games. But I do agree with you in this composition in particular. If a poke composition falls behind, it's really not very effective. So that's where Albus Nox Luna is going to have to be very careful in the early game to not let that happen.
Well, they had a very kill-heavy early game. Yeah, on day one of Worlds, this is Albus Nox Luna. They need to farm as well as pick up those kills. If you think they can pick it up, hashtag ANX win. Or if you think North America is going to pick up another win, hashtag CLG win. We're loading up onto the Rift. It's North America taking on the CIS. And let's find out who comes out victorious in this Group A matchup.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing our first Nidalee here at Worlds, because I know that throughout the end of the regular season, it had actually fallen down in some priority for people in favor of Gragas and Rek'Sai. Those two champions have been nerfed fairly heavily, so the punishment for Nidalee is a little bit down. And I think the main reason it's been banned so much is its incredible speed while farming and how that can lead to map pressure. So Steos will need to be able to significantly outpace Xmithie if he wants this pick to have value.
Yeah, and Xmithie, it's going to be much more about that ganking pressure that Elise does provide. That's why you see so many players even willing to go for the Moby boots early on, just to be able to get in the right position, get these ganks going. And I think Kira especially is going to have to play very, very careful with the fact that Afro can roam up on the Bard. You have that Syndra for the CC, and the Elisa is a great ganker on mid lane.
A little bit of trading early on. Feels like they're contesting for some early vision. Smithy and Steos going down. He's just going to walk away. No real commit here because there's not a lot of CC to work with.
COG is also very willing to bluff early game, the way they're kind of taking a bunch of poke right here. The bottom lanes haven't been spotted out for either team, so both of these teams are actually kind of faking like they have a 5-person invade. And in actuality, what's happening since Suhi's gone to lane is Smithy's getting pushed out of his jungle early.
Yeah, a lot of poke going down. Smithy below half health. Steos and Smurf gonna at least start off the Sentinel and then start to back away, but it feels like this
really
contest
tense.
is still going on.
Yeah, this is actually pretty rough for CLG. They're getting bullied around quite a bit, but Smithy did get both the little golems.
Yeah, from an experience perspective, CLG is winning this one.
Yeah.
If ANX ends up falling back here, they're going to actually set themselves in a big deficit.
100 hit point, flash forward, flash out. The shock blast doesn't connect. Both mid laners use their summoners. Only a cleanse for Kira.
This is a little bit strange. Steos still wanting to get this, but Smithy actually has a bit of damage here. He could force him out. All he has is W, so it's not like he can bite him afterwards. He wins the trade. It's not like Steos has a heal.
This is one of the craziest level 1s I think I've ever seen. It's just 2.5 minutes in. Both junglers are level 1. We have a level 1 mid laner, 2 level 1 top laners.
And the thing we have to track here is actually how COG won this by a lot. He ended up having to go through his potions, but that doesn't matter that much because he didn't forego as much experience as Kira did when leaving the lane. And Xsmithy's going to be able to get the blue buff. Steos is now going to be starting his jungle a minute and a half late because he didn't get any experience when harassing the blue buff, and now he's gone back. Because of the gold over time, he bought a
And actually, when you think about it, that's supposed to be the strength of Nidalee, is outpacing the Elise. He's really given up one of the big strengths of this champion. He's going to be massively behind the Nidalee.
We'll find out what he can do with this deficit. Luckily, can close the gap, but now he's playing to go even, actually going very low.
Yep.
On the Imperial Wolves here.
He gets his first CS 3 minutes and 17 seconds into the game as a jungle Nidalee, who normally, if you're pacing, if you just would have been patient, stuck to his own jungle, you were level 3 with double buffs at that time.
Yeah, certainly. But this is obviously, they're trying to take a risk, right? They set up this pre-planned play to try to make a big risk, which could pay off in a big reward, right? If they can shove Smithy out, if they can steal the blue buff and put it in that opposite situation, that's how they could see themselves getting a lead. So they're taking a risk. It didn't pay off here, and now they're going to have to deal with the consequences.
And because of that, it puts the game into a bit of an improvised state, because this isn't something that happens in scrims very often. I do know that COG love to improvise, and now they've invaded back, but because of the Wolf Smite, Steos saw that, so it's almost a little bit expected that he was going to get invaded, and I think it was very smart that he started Wolves.
Smithy and Aframu managed to make it out before Lecrit can jump in to support Steos. Aframu's now returning this one around, pounce forward, takes a magical journey, goes into a penguin and flies his way out of there.
Cheeky little play there by Aframu, and does try to take away the Grom. Not going to be able to do it, but Smithy, while Afro's buying time, is going for the red buff.
Let's see if Stayhouse is sensing it. It doesn't actually look like it. Essentially, both Xsmithy and Afro were spotted by the Wolf Spirit on that side of the jungle. Stayhouse is expecting, now he knows it's been stolen. He hit a Spiderling on the way out. Smithy gets 3 buffs.
So a good start by Xsmithy to, I think, react to the aggressive play from Albus Nox Luna, taking stock of the CS, even across the board with the exception of that mid lane. Kira being shoved in, I think not too surprising at the early levels against Syndra. And obviously all of that additional time Kira spent running in the river for that very crazy level 1. Going to put him behind a little bit of CS.
We also need to be able to track Darshan and Smurf because Smurf is kind of beginning to reach that point on Trundle. If there's been no early game teleports for anything, the Trundle actually is pretty legit against the Poppy, so as far as this lane is concerned, it's going quite well for Albus Nox.
It's got to go very well for Albus Nox, I feel, because Smurf, I think, should be able to play the side lane a little better, but obviously Darshan's TP impact way more powerful with that giant hammer.
Yeah, they certainly are going to be, but Smurf is going to want to try to keep this in the side lanes, I think, a lot of the time. And if he can get that isolated 1v1, he can start to really build an advantage against Darshan, especially as you hit level 6. We all know Poppy wants to build full tank, which is just kind of gifting those stats over to the Trundle, who's going to give him that advantage in that split push.
Into his favor. We've not talked too much about Styx and Aframu. They've farmed their way up. Again, even with the Miracle and Lecrit. Lecrit's on that Tom Kench. Catch a quick glimpse of Darshan TPing up. I want to see how that lane plays out a little later as well.
And Smithy even making a move there early just to get some autos with the red onto that mid lane turret. They know they're going to try to be pushing this in, and they want to work on this turret early to try to set it up later for getting that first tower blood gold.
Yeah, Huhi is one of the mid laners who loves to roam and also gets some of the most help from his jungler lately. But you can take over the map as seen with Cinder if you're able to get the first turret down early, and then you can start roaming. Nice spear there by Steos, though.
A little stun onto Steos as Huhi makes his way out. Unleash Power is available. Syndra, Ghost, and Flash versus Flash Cleanse. Cleanse was used by Kira earlier. I didn't quite see exactly when. It's important to note that that is down if Xsmithy can find an opportunity into the lane, rather. And there we go, catch a little glimpse. A Miracle and a Crit. They've shoved this wave quite heavily towards Afro and Stixxay.
Yeah, I don't think things are going disastrously for Albus Nox. Their initial invade didn't work that well, but Nidalee can still catch up. The kit itself on Nidalee is insane as far as farming is concerned, and if he just commits to it, he will get an experience advantage onto Xmithy as long as his lanes aren't dying to these ganks.
Yeah, the gold is actually dead even. Smurf is going to blow his teleport, just get back there and be able to farm. So both top laners without a teleport here early on, so less playmaking ability, and this may unlock some of the bot lanes to go a little bit more aggressive.
What a quick glimpse there of Smurf. Two wards rather, after teleporting to the top lane. Pink in the river. And Invisi ward over towards that Tribush. Going to get some additional information. Stayos also on this corner of the map. Got himself that Tracker's Knife. And Smithy leaving base similar. Amtone's boot. Seen a couple of very early pink wards on the side of Albus Nox. See if they can get some value out of it. Fairly defensive near the river, just there behind that red buff.
And I think it's pretty intelligent. A lot of this is just trying to keep Smurf safe in that isolated 1v1. Do not allow Xmithy to get behind him, sneak around, which is exactly what Smithy's kind of looking to do here right now.
So far, I think the ward coverage and the smite plays by Stayos have been pretty good, and maybe they can actually get a collapse here, although Kira's got to be careful about getting comboed.
Remember, there's no cleanse. Kira is able to walk away. Who he threw down the ultimate and who he flashed forward for the Smithy's got a flash available, makes it across the wall. CLG down 2 flashes for no summoners on the side of Albus Nox.
Yeah, they popped the Hex Drinker, and that's about it. So I like the collapse by Albus Nox, and that's because they had the proper pink ward in the brush there.
Exactly. Smithy didn't check the brush, and he's going to pay the price for that. Both summoners are down. I also feel like it's not really respecting the power of that early Hex Drinker.
Oh, Theos gets gobbled up, and that's the strength of Tom Kench, who he gets spat on, and Albus Nox get first blood. Here comes Stixxay, grey health popped. Licrit's looking for a way out, flashes into the river. Stixxay fancies his chances, doesn't go aggro yet. Kira's running low on mana, pinned against the wall. Here comes Stixxay. Kira goes down, 1-for-1 trade, and Afro's looking for more. Gets the auto down onto Licrit, but Licrit makes it a tower, 1-for-1 at the end of the day.
First blood, though, goes to ANX. They're the ones with the gold lead here, doing very well in the early game.
I feel like as far as kill distribution, unfortunately for ANX, since it was support versus an AD carry, COG will still win that trade, but they don't really deserve to win the trade, in my opinion, because Stayos was, I think, properly invading here since they had more people here at the very start of the fight after we tried to come up, but it was definitely too late. And then, if a Miracle would have been faster on that roam, I think they can win this fight as well. And Kira could have ran away if he just follows his teammates, but only because he turned the wrong direction.
Oh, they're
caught.
coming for Darshan, but
Just
he's here.
This is so scary.
Oh, no.
Licrit devours Smurf, spits him back out. CLG are donated a kill, and Smurf's able to flash away to safety, but that was optimistic.
Gotta bring a friend.
Yeah, that was a huge overextension. Even if Smithy wasn't there, I don't see how Darshan actually dies in that 2v1, as both the Trundle and the Tahm Kench were low.
And this sets up a counter dive because they know Tahm Kench isn't there. Turret's off.
There ain't no tower. A Miracle's gonna need a miracle. Gets caught out, summon a heal, flashes away. Stixxay takes a tower shot, and Afro forced to flash to safety.
Pretty well handled there by Miracle, but it's 2 summoners down, and he is going to be very vulnerable.
Oh! I love the fact that Stixxay moved to the side, so there was no damage fall off on his ultimate, because if he shoots that through the minion wave, it wouldn't have had enough damage to kill. The gank got both summoners. The True Shot Barrage finished the kill.
Very clever, and it's 3 members of ANX moving down to the bot line. They want to make Stixxay pay.
Oh,
Jace coming in on the side.
How hungry is he? No flash available.
Comes the poke.
Very good slow. And eats a Mystic Shot as well. Stixxay's able to walk away. Such good play from Stixxay on that True Shot Barrage.
I'm going to be very interested to see if Stixxay is actually going to go towards the Triforce, as we've seen as kind of that snowball-y option. A lot of people have been going for that. Obviously, Iceborne Gauntlet's still very popular, and we're not going to get any information on that just yet as he picks up the pickaxe.
Yeah, pickaxe indeed. Going to get towards that Mura mana. And Immune rather. And up in the top lane, Darshan was shoving the wave in very heavily against Smurf. Both top laners have their TPs available. Oh, look at that damage! Cleanse comes out, who he's down. That was just so much burst.
I liked what they did there. And I also like the ward coverage that ANX has, but I have to criticize CLG for not checking the brushes where the pink wards are being placed.
This is also very dangerous. They don't have a mid laner, and the collapse is coming in here. Smithy gets eaten up.
That's a devour. Darshan cancels the TP. Smithy's looking for a magical journey, but he can't find it. Kira's got another.
That was so disrespectful. They know that he just died in the mid lane. They're fighting, and Kira just simply walks over. They're going to be outnumbered. Very poor play there from CLG.
And now it's an uncontestable Ocean Drake while we're still in the laning phase. One of the best Drakes to get this early in the game, so it's a little bit of a disastrous turn of events there for CLG. But you have to credit Albus Nox for punishing CLG's mistakes. I think it all starts when Huhi does the roam top lane, doesn't check for wards on the backside, and then they're down a player while Smithy's going for a top Kench who will take forever to kill if anything's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what he was thinking. And Darshan gets interrupted on that TP as well. So bad goes to worse. They lose the summoner, they lose the kill and the dragon.
And teleport advantage to Smurf as well now for a couple of minutes, if an opportunity can present itself. Darshan's going to get bullied out just a little, got a minion wave to fight with. Smurf decides against this fight. He doesn't have access to his ulti, so that's probably a good, big reason why. Flash from Smith, Steos just pounces away, keeps his cool.
Yeah, I really think that CLG would have needed a little bit more patience right there. Steos was going to be going for the counter jungle, and they just kind of jumped the gun, not respecting Steos' ability to react. Albus Nox definitely staying in this one, and CLG knows better than anyone else how very real these games can turn into losses.
Teleport comes out here from Smurf, and for Albus Nox, that's the second time we've seen them at Worlds, and the second time they've had a fairly chaotic early game. It's not quite as dramatic as day one, but it is working a little bit more in their favor as they're even out 13 minutes.
And top lane, bot lane are quite even. There is a very big CS discrepancy in the mid lane despite those 2 kills. So that is the one area that they are kind of falling behind, and that's partly what is keeping CLG so close as far as the kills goes.
But I do want to compare and contrast this a little bit to the game against Rox. The game against Rox was much higher in kills, and there was also a much larger CS discrepancy where it was definitely going to matter. It was about a 50 CS difference in the bottom lane, and Praise Lucian was clearly going to take off. However, in this COG game, where Huhi has the CS advantage, he's down in deaths, and Kira's been able to keep up kills and assists. So instead of it being several thousand gold difference, Kira's up 200 gold on Huhi. So it's not like there's an individual disadvantage that Albus Nox is facing here. And if they play the map properly, they do have the lead.
Albus Nox got first blood, got first tower blood, and I actually saw Steos pick up a needlessly large rod, sell that, and then change it to the Giant's Belt. I think that's slightly smarter at this stage, but definitely looking committed to that heavy damage poke style.
Yeah, I think it is very smart, especially with the Syndra on the other team. You have to show some respect to the burst potential there, and getting that extra HP is going to help out quite a bit.
And I also think, as we see, the crit comes in alone once again.
Smithy's going to find a magical journey, and at least get away from the piercing lights, and Afro found a backdoor.
Gorgeous angle there on the magical journey from Afro to barely keep Xmithy out of that.
To follow up getting that first tower top lane, they've also gotten a lot of vision on CLG's blue side jungle. So this is making it pretty scary for Darshan to go into this extended lane against the Trundle where he doesn't have the safety of his turret. He can get chased down, and we'll see if Smurf's going to be able to extend the advantage because of that.
And I also think it's easy to discount from a casual viewer perspective, or even from our perspective a lot of times, when you have a wild card region, so to speak, coming in, to think that the only chance they have is to do something crazy and catch them off guard. But what's happened so much with the 2 regions that actually made it here, when you look at INTZ from Brazil, as well as Albus Nox here, Albus Nox was the best macro team from the CIS region. So if they do get ahead, they know where to place the wards, they know how to strangle the lead, and they know how to play the map. So with leads like this, they can do it, and it's just a matter of executing.
Definitely going to help if they can pick up this Rift Herald. Smurf has been enabled this entire game. With 15 minutes in, Albus Nox hold on to the 1,000 gold lead. And it will be contested, however. Darshan's going to come in, swings up the Keeper's verdict, and the verdict is, you are out of here! Smurf is sent packing down the mid lane. Kira jumps onto Huhi. Remember, he's got the Maw of Malmortius. A shield will pop shortly. Cleanse is available if needed. Huhi's going to sidestep that shock blast. And Kira's going to walk away. Down in the bottom lane, Xmithy comes to put pressure on a Miracle in the crit.
And CLG should be able to grab their first turret, and a little victories on both sides of the map. As I'm actually pretty impressed with how Darshan played that. Knocking out the Trundle meant Nidalee could not stick around to finish off the Rift Herald. Very well done by him, and that could be key.
Yeah, Darshan just had to hit one, and because he caught them doing the Rift Herald, CLG was able to just kind of walk into the bottom lane It's one of the strengths of Xmithy, being in the right place at the right time. Even if it doesn't have to be clever, it's just right, and it works.
Ooh, big damage. Poke works too. He does have to be careful. Needs to get in to clear the wave. 50% of his tower's dropped. CLG got that bottom outer turret, so that will even that up at 1-1. But as it stands, Albus Nox still with the minor lead. Teleport's coming back up again. Darshan's got his. Smurf is on cooldown. Big item points again. Frozen Fist, Man Immune, Morellonomicon. Starting to build up, so both of these teams scaling in power.
They certainly are, but Darshan really has been kind of pinned down to his lane. He hasn't been able to make that kind of playmaking ability that he had against G2. He hasn't been able to TP around the map, has been stuck in his lane, trying to constantly clear the waves and keep this Trundle at bay.
And I think a lot of that just has to do with A, the Nidalee getting through and actually, despite having a slow start, still being able to invade the jungle, and B, CLG just not having the wards with which to teleport to. They don't have necessarily enough map pressure to let that happen, and Lacrit just loves using his Tomcat ultimate. It's a... I'll give that a C. C. No, I was going to go C plus or minus. It's right there. It's
just a solid C.
That's the grade.
Lacrit, there you
Not a good ult.
And you still gave it a C?
He didn't die.
Okay, okay. So that would have been a D.
He still pushed him back a little bit. C minus?
Got it. A little bit of pressure on Stixxay. Force him away at least. But the lane's still heavily in favor of Stixxay and Aphromoo. Plus 20 odd CS. Big item difference for now. And that Ezreal continues to power up. An 18-minute 2-item spike, I think, is pretty good for CLG, but look at the setup.
CLG is looking to fight here. We have Hui on the roam. Bard ulti is available. We'll see if they go for it.
Theos is down. He just gets burst out. No wards available. He gets eaten alive. Hui's going to look to unleash his power somewhere, but no target available.
Really nice pick there. CLG gets vision control in the river. They set that up with the push from Hui and the roam up from Afro. Very well played, and this is going to unlock them to go straight for the dragon.
It was great timing as far as trying to make that roam as well. Somehow they found a hole in the wards, and you could see Steos was trying to close the hole in the wards with the check in that brush, really just trying to get in the ward range. And there's Darshan on the rope. Nice pillar!
That was really well interrupted. A two-man knockup from the Keeper's Verdict. Darshan gets booted away by the hammer as Lacrit devours up Kira. Able to waddle away to safety. Dragon goes down, but nothing else.
Yeah, the pillar wards off disaster, though, from Smurf. By pillaring, it looked like he canceled Darshan's heroic charge. It's still going to be trouble from a pressure perspective, though. Stixxay can roam up and get that mid lane turret.
And I've got to give some credit to Lacrit. He has been really in the right place a lot of the time here, eating up his teammates, keeping them safe from that CC. And although he hasn't had the most spectacular ultimates, the rest of his non-Gench play has been on point.
Going to be very important as the game breaks out.
Oh, Afro goes in.
Afro, he takes a lot more damage than he was expecting. Kira gets the summoner healer. Devour comes out. Darshan's coming from behind. No ultimate available. Pins a miracle against the wall. Steos fancies the pounce in. Goes up and Stixxay flashes out. Very good stun from Aphromoo. He takes a magical journey to safety. Albus Nox, Luna, they're running forward. Kira's about to go down, but he stays alive for a few seconds longer as he's devoured by Lacrit. It's a 1-for-0 in favor of CLG. And in a 5-on-4, they're forcing Albus Nox away. Looking at Steos, he needs a javelin to connect.
And I think this fight speaks to how much a poke comp needs to set up to be effective. That was such a sloppy engage as the fighting continues.
And Afro gets away just out of range of the claws.
Oh, what a close fight, but ANX is going for the turret, and we're going for Darshan!
He's down! They take him out, the tower stays alive, and Stixxay is able to zone the rest of Albus Nox away. At the end of the day, 1-for-1 in that trade.
But they could get the turret here. There's not much wave clear in position for CLG, and I don't know if they can hold on.
Yeah, I think they're just going to be able to push through it. Xmithy's trying desperately to clear the wave, but it's not to be. It's just about getting harassed down as much as possible. But thinking back to the beginning of that fight, it was really greedy by CLG to jump in there. I think the reason they didn't all die, though, is because Albus Nox is that poke composition, and unless they're getting setup time on you, you can make bold engages like that. So expect many more crazy-looking things from CLG as this game continues.
It's also one of those things where maybe it's giving them a little bit too much respect. They're like, oh, CLG wouldn't do this? That's crazy. It must be something we don't see. But yeah, I mean, Stixxay going through the portal into their team, I think they could have capitalized on it.
Bard, Elise, and then Ezreal. It's not like Poppy's coming through that portal. It's just a bunch of
It's a clown car, Jet.
Just keep coming. Aphromoo nearly dies, but they do get the stun onto Kira. Stixxay comes through immediately just to shift back, but it was Darshan coming in to make the play and kill a miracle.
Ends up being a 1-for-1. The gold is now even. We've gone over 21 minutes. And the tension is still building. CLG not looking as dominant as maybe they were to be expected. However, they are dictating the tempo of the game, and they are now sieging up. Steos gets caught by a cocoon. Teleport for Smurf matched by Darshan in that bottom lane. And the game is still even marginally in favor of Albus Nox, but truthfully, without that setup, without the distance and the right situation, it's much harder for Albus Nox's team comp to truly shine.
And I also want to talk about where these teams are strong from a composition perspective. Stixxay is by far the strongest player on CLG right now with the 2 kills on Ezreal and the Iceborne Gauntlet completed. So he is really the carry for this one, and CLG also has good engage as well as a large ability to get picks. Albus Nox is...
Speaking of those picks.
Yep. Albus Nox is in trouble. Good flash away from a Miracle. He stays alive. Aframu gets devoured. A Miracle takes him down. Very good timing. A second kill on the Stixxay. I didn't even see Steos coming in. Smurf is going to be a recipient of a death as who he sends into the fountain. It's a 1 for 2 in favor of Albus Nox.
And Albus Nox was actually pinging briefly onto the Baron there. Got me a little bit scared for them as it's pretty early to go for that, but getting 2 kills on the top side, playing very well. These guys, you have to respect their play. Both as far as the actual individual skills and the macro play, they're matching up extremely well against CLG.
Yeah, and their goal distribution is actually a lot more equal, which we kind of got to see an example of that right there. You would think that Albus Nox's composition is about bottom lane, but really, they're getting a lot of kills just in these skirmishes. It's a straight-up 2v2 right here, and Lecrit is the one that engages this, so we caught up to this later. It wasn't a pick as much as Albus Nox was trying to pick off CLG right here, and they do. Nidalee paths here before Xmithy. They kill Aframu first, and very easily are able to pick up Stixxay second.
And CLG was able to get the return kill on the bot side as Darshan had already forced out the ultimate, but it's a smaller prize.
As we come out of that replay, important to note, Lecrit right now has dealt more damage to enemy champions than a Miracle or Steos. Big indicator of his playstyle and frontline preferences.
Is that real? Like, is that a real statistic?
My stats whisperers inform me so.
Wow.
I'm
That's
willing
impressive. Tom Kench is not the guy. So essentially, we have some backstory on this as well. Lecrit by far and away did a higher percentage of his team's damage than any other support at Worlds, but most of that is attributed to him playing brand support. When he's able to do it on Tom Kench in a poke composition as well, it's rather impressive.
Smurf does not care about Darshan. Subjugate's available if he needs a quick heal. He's going to be able to just back away after a little chomp, and he's just looking for the tower. It's 2-2 in tower kills, and CLG, they find themselves in a slightly awkward position. It's 25 minutes of the game. We're starting to crest mid-game. I think Albus Nox have still got a very strong poke composition, but they can't afford to get jumped on. So no overextending. Smurf is going to be very careful if he's that brave on the towers alone.
Their composition is honestly pretty well-rounded. They do have good poke, but they also have safety from that Tom Kench. They've split push from the Trundle, so it's not a one-dimensional setup.
Yeah, and another swing and a miss there from CLG. The Bard ult missed while Darshan was trying to come in from the side. For Albus Nox, it's about keeping their wards up and then actually poking CLG when CLG is at objectives, because I think that's what CLG will try and use to draw the poke up in. But you can kind of corner yourself if you're not careful.
Good damage onto Kira. Gonna be forced to back away. That's the Morval Mortier shield pop. Lecrit's gonna get jumped on as Steos is trying to save him. Smurf puts up that pillar of ice, and that should buy some additional time. A chomp comes down from Smurf. There's the culling on the side lane from a Miracle. CLG running for their life. Smurf goes back in with Subjugate, but Kira's down. Stixxay's find him. Now Stixxay's the target. A Miracle still with a lot of HP, but he's running out of teammates. A Miracle goes down. Flashed out from, survives thanks to the heal, manages to get away. Steos saves his life. It's 3-0 in favor of CLG.
Stixxay is getting so much work done in these team fights, being very aggressive on the Ezreal. He knows he's the strong point for the team, and he's making it work.
And so many of these fights are just dictated by mechanics and how well a team can communicate, because these are very chaotic fights, so to speak. Darshan tracks down Steos. I don't think he can catch the Nidalee. But specifically in that fight, I feel like Kira got super greedy. They could have just given away the Drake. At the very start, he gets poked down, but it's later in the fight where he actually makes the mistake.
Yeah, he does get poked out. He backs off, but he wants to stay involved, and he will later re-enter the fight. But on the bot side, you can see everything is just breaking out.
Yeah, and here is a point where Albus Nox can disengage. But watch, Kira throws a shock blast, then he's waiting on his Q cooldown because he wants to get another shot through. But what happened right after that is Stixxay just shifted to him. Now they might speak better, though. This is going to work.
Look at the mini-map. CLG on there. Albus Nox. They're going to sneak it. There's enough vision. There's enough time. What on earth is happening? Albus Nox punish the back timing of CLG and steal Baron from underneath their noses.
CLG had no idea what was going on. There was no pings. Not one person was looking to check that. And Albus Nox, Luna are looking good. Gold is dead even.
Yeah, and I think that's actually just a big mistake by CLG, not keeping account their vision control and the death timers of Albus Nox Luna. They had won the previous fight by getting 3 people dead and then also seeing Steos on the top side of the map. So what CLG can do if they want to prevent that from happening, the Baron rush, is they take their own Drake with fewer people and they stagger their backs to get a quick ward on Baron or have people there to stop it. They did none of those things though, which basically means they were caught sleeping.
I also love the fact that they're kind of mitigating some of the strength that CLG has with the double Mountain Dragon, because that is really one of the biggest strengths of that is taking Baron, and now that objective is off the map.
That is indeed. Smurf will likely go down. Actually, he definitely will. 4 members of CLG coming to run him down. 6A gets the kill with the help of Aframu. The tower's still standing, but at what cost? When CLG throw a party in the top lane, Albus Nox takes down the tower in the bottom.
Yeah, and the mid lane. There's Baron minions here, so they're much more powerful as far as pushing is concerned. Not to mention they have a Nidalee empowered Lucian for attack speed and a Jace. They're going to take turrets faster. CLG is getting demolished in this trade.
The Keeper's Verdict did nothing. The minions weren't even hammered away. Darshan's doing what he can, but it's simply not enough. That's 3 towers to 1. Yes, CLG also got another kill, but Albus Nox have blown this map wide open.
And I really have to credit Albus Nox, especially when CLG's reputation is the teamwork team, because Albus Nox is out-rotating CLG for most of the last 5 minutes, from the Baron rush to that last turret trade. Teams are often scared of trying this against CLG, and it's how CLG wins a lot of their games in NA. Well, that's not how they're winning here.
Well, Lakritz brought some friends this time around. Darshan's teleporting in to save Stixay, but Darshan doesn't know that the rest of Albus Nox are here. Teleport cancelled. That's a big cooldown blown.
It was actually pretty smart, though. It did make Albus Nox Luna hesitate a little bit. It keeps Stixay alive, keeps him safe, and that is their big carry at the moment. They funneled both the turrets' local gold into him on his top side as well, so they are really putting all their eggs in this one basket.
Yeah, he has a 1,000 gold lead on anyone else on the enemy team. Huhi, because of his farm as well, is also that strong, but when we're watching the team fight, it's definitely Stixay who is really what all of COD's damage is coming out from.
About 20 minutes ago, the Twitter vote said it was 80% favored for CLG. I wonder if those votes have swung. Counter Logic Gaming set up in and around the Dragon Pit. They managed to get out alive thanks to the Magical Journey. And itemization is great. We're approaching 30 minutes and Albus Nox still maintain a minor lead.
And this game can still be extremely swingy, especially when you consider that COD is running no real sustain aside from the Bard health packs he can leave on the ground. And there's a huge amount of poke coming out from Albus Nox. So if Kira can get one good shock blast from the Fog of War, it can completely push COG off of an objective, and they have to be incredibly careful about where they move.
At this point in the game, you got to think that Albus Nox Luna is answering a lot of their critics' questions. You know, sure, they got some kills against Rocks, but they couldn't play a controlled game. They couldn't play a macro game. What else is this game but that? This is a very high-level macro game.
And now they are in the most difficult test of any macro, closing out. Especially because it's 30 minutes, it's completely even. Neither team has a dominant lead.
And I would say it's an even more difficult task to close out an even game, because it's very much that. It's 1 Drake to 2, 5 turrets to 5, and a 1,000 gold differential. So it is really just a match of wits now between COG and Albus, and both these guys are team play teams. What's interesting is COG's winning the close team fights. It's Albus Nox that are getting their advantages from team play.
Yeah, Albus Nox playing the map. Very big javelin tosses from Steos. Albus Nox going to secure an uncontested tower thanks to keeping multiple members of CLG in the mid lane. So again, another example of Albus Nox understanding how to play the comp, how to play the map, and they've got every single outer turret down from CLG. Only the inhibitors left to knock on.
It's also the fact that Darshan's just getting straight up outscaled at this point. It's going to be very hard for him to really match up against that Trundle in a side lane. And wave clear on Poppy is not very good at all.
So it's making it even more difficult to actually set up any type of teleport flank, which is what COD would generally need to engage a clean team fight. Albus Nox still has pretty good defensive ward coverage. There's only 1 ward that's behind them, and they're being pretty cautious of warding their flanks when they are trying to move up to siege a turret.
Warding the flanks is what CLG has to maintain control of. We heard right at the beginning of the game, Darshan talking about being the underdog. surprising by how well they can play. They were not the underdog in this game. The opposite was true, and now all of a sudden, Albus Nox stepping up.
And I say it as a joke often, but there's a lot of truth to it. CLG performs inversely to their expectations. When people expect them to lose, they win. And as soon as you give them credit, like when they're the two-time defending champions, and that's all we want to say in North America, they finish 4th. And then they come into Worlds and no one thinks they'd win. They beat the #1 seed from here. Hey, they're great again. Now, they're in an incredibly close game against the team from the CIS. So it is, you never know what you're going to get with CLG.
It's the story of CLG, and even speaking with Zix, their coach, he talks about that is their struggle, the highs and the lows, the inconsistencies of CLG, and just ironing that out to be able to consistently play at that highest level.
Yeah, but this is actually a really interesting moment in the game. The Cloud Drake's going down. It's a double Mountain Drake CLG. This turret will melt.
It is going down. A third of the hit points missing. Lecrit's come up from the mid lane, bringing some support. Kira's managed to make it back to base. Okay, Dragon secured. That is the Cloud Drake. Next one will be Elder. 6 minutes time, and the top lane's being pushed in by Darshan. Albus Nox, when aggressive, have had good macro. Now they need to show macro on defensive play is good as well, because CLG have got control of the top half of the map.
And the game has such slim margins as well. Remember how we're talking about how low CLG sustain is and how potent Albus Nox's poke can be. When CLG is making these moves, if they catch one stray spear or shock blast, it could shut down the entire push. That would mean a recall and 40-second delay, depending if it landed on someone like Huhi.
Certainly will, and it's going to be a lot on people like Darshan to be in the front line and soaking those up, kind of be that sponge who can eat some of those shock blasts.
Look at that goal difference over time. No more than a 2,000.
They're looking for a pick here.
Here they go. Look at that later. Steos is dead. I was too busy looking at the pretty graphic.
Afro has his ult.
It's going to devour Kira. Flashes out. They have a golden. Nobody caught out. Lecrit is going to stay alive for a few seconds longer. Grey Health not going to survive. 5 members of CLG. Make that 4 as Darshan was down the bottom lane.
Really good play from CLG. They get control of vision. They spring the trap and they get 2 kills as well as both summoners off Kira.
And it's the second time this game CLG has been able to wait prior to an objective respawning. That happened before with one of the Mountain Drakes, and it happened there with Baron, and they get big advantages because of their strat.
Inhibitor's going to drop here, uncontested from the 3 members of Albus Nox. Some poke, but look at the minion wave up top. Smurf is trying to delay, but he's not doing a huge amount. Stixay gets caught up by some poke, and Smurf again trying to push up. This is a 3v5 for a few seconds longer. Steos has just spawned. Abyssal Voyage is available for Lecrit if he wants to try in the back line. Kira goes forward to the skies, throws out the hammer shot. Smurf is running down Darshan. After we delivered by Lecrit. Stixay, Huhi, Afro, they're all low, but Steos goes down. He can't get the kill. Flash forward from Smurf. That's the shutdown. He's got 3 to find and a GA to pop. Now Kira's going low. He joins the fight. Kira's down. Stixay's got 2. That's the culling coming out as Stixay's finally killed. Afro stays alive. GA respawns Darshan. There goes the Tempered Fate. Once again, nobody caught. Lecrit waddling, lashes down Afro move, and Darshan's gonna run for his life. A 4 for 3, but the base is broken open.
Crazy fight, but very greedy from CLG to stay around with such low health bars. Huhi had been tanking that inhibitor turret. He was below half. Stixay gets tagged by a spear. Just look at the health bars. Huhi's almost dead. Afro's almost dead. Darshan is dying, and then the fight breaks out.
And the worst part for CLG is if they just completely run, Albus Nox gets Baron, so they almost have to fight, and the skill shot accuracy in this fight was incredibly low. Steos wasn't able to land spears. Stixay dodged it on the side. Kira misses that shock blast. If these are landing, it's a total wipe for CLG and a Baron for Albus Nox. So if not for the dodging of Stixay, CLG get a huge deficit off that play, but because they have the ability to dodge the skill shots, it stays close, they get the inhibitor, and the Baron doesn't immediately go over to Albus Nox Luna.
Yeah, it was 2 extra kills picked up there from Stixay, and he is getting very big. 8, 2, and 4 now. Has his Bloodthirster. He's almost fully completed his build. He's going to be massive.
Yeah, he is massive already. Stixay's dealt 33,000 damage to Albus Nox Luna. Miracle's dealt 11,000, and Lecrit 9,000. So still very, very close. Keep getting those damage numbers from our stats benders, as Lecrit is famous for that. But now look at the vision around Baron, and CLG have got control.
Yeah, and they're trying to sweep. They're actually just going to start it. The double Mountain Drake is so fast. Smurf would have to teleport in right away. They might even be willing to go for a 50-50. Will we see a fight?
Smurf is teleporting into the pit. Baron's been peeled away from, and Albus Nox are split up. They're a poke comp, remember. Hootie gets caught, spit up, spat out, and Smurf has got him. Now it's a 5v4. Darshan's the next target. Heroic Charge finds no stun. Gonna try get away. Lash, gobbled, devoured up. Lecrit's gonna spit him out. Another kill to Albus Nox. They turn to Xmithy.
Lecrit basically soloed Huhi in that fight, and he's coming back in on the backside of it.
What can Stixay do? He's got full HP, but 5 members from the CIS region to deal with. Xmithy's gonna flash to safety. A Tempered Fate will buy some time for Afro move, but simply not enough. Stixay is able to Arcane Shift to safety, but the Baron is still available. True Shot Barrage up for Stixay.
A completely awkward fight there for CLG. They were split up on both sides. Their carry is with Aframo on the bot side, never able to enter the fight.
Stixay's looking for Lecrit. Exhaust goes out. Lecrit should go down. Gets a devoured by some time. Stixay goes up. They've traded 1-for-1. True Shot Barrage! Not going to steal, but I held my breath. A 1-for-1, and Albus Nox get their second Baron.
And Albus Nox are now, I think, in control of the game because they're going to get their inhibitor respawning while they're going to have the Baron buff to try and push down the other side with poke and maybe actually get the proper setup towards a siege situation. What a series of events.
Earlier today, Papa Smithy shook my hand and said, good luck. And he said, will you cast your second upset today? We're going to find out shortly as here's the replay.
Yeah, the exhaust from the crit, he held it the entire fight, shows the patience. I think that caught Stixay off guard. He can pick up a kill, but once a miracle came over the wall, there wasn't much more he could do. Albus Nox easily secured the Baron afterwards.
Yeah, but it was really all about the setup. CLG are the ones who started that. They get the TP out from Smurf, and then they just need to disengage as a team, back off, or stay as a squad and fight. They're the team fighting team. They're the 5-man squad. They split up, and they just really threw away a lot of their power in this game.
And I think it's interesting the fact that they had the double Mountain Drake and they weren't willing to commit to a full Baron rush. They spent a lot of time peeling towards the backside of the Baron, and it definitely backfired. And I think what's most interesting is Lecrit's Tom Kench is a real menace for CLG right now. He was the one who got onto Huhi and took him out of the fight. So if they don't actually deal with the Tom Kench, he is going to create problems for CLG's backline, which isn't how most people play support Tom Kench.
Working for Lecrit. It is working for Albus Nox. Bit of a heal comes out from Steos onto Smurf. Pillar of Ice / Filth, depending how long you play Shuttle for. Blocks off Darshan's X. Elder Drake was up, and Albus Nox are putting some vision around, but they didn't start the objective. Very big minion wave pushing towards CLG in the bottom. Someone has to deal with that in the not too distant future.
Yeah, and the game's in a very peculiar place where there's a downed inhibitor on the team that has Baron, so that delays the game in most situations since Albus needs to constantly feint back to mid lane to defend CLG and can't commit to an Elder Drake.
Seconds ago, it did respawn. Steos is able to get devoured. Single target.
Huhi's in a bad spot.
Huhi's in a terrible spot. Hourglass to save his life. Stixay's the target, though. He's trying to run for his life. Very good Tempered Fate. Double stun a little early. Huhi shot his low too soon. Darshan's down. Stixay's forced to run for his life. But look at that accelerated shot blast. It's a double kill for Kira. And Albus Nox, they're pushing CLG. They've got Baron, and it's a 5-on-2.
Well, these Death Timers, they could actually try to go for the win here. Yeah. They are looking to make the upset over CLG.
The later the game got, the better Albus Nox got at team fighting. And with these massive Death Timers and the Baron buff, they're going to look to push for the win.
Lecrit is hungry and he wants to be fed. He won't find Huhi, though. I think Huhi is going to get caught out. No! He's done it! Lecrit's interrupted. The rest of Albus Nox, they're looking at the Nexus. They've taken down the turret. They've taken down another. And for the second time at Worlds, a wildcard team has taken down another North American team.
And Quick Shot, you and I have had the pleasure of casting both this and the INTZ EDG game, and at this point, it can't be that surprising. CLG lost a match to Supermassive at MSI and just lost a straight-up match to Albus Nox Luna here at Worlds. Anything can happen.
Certainly can, and these teams are getting better and better. Albus Nox Luna really representing the CIS very, very well here, and they played this game straight up. They just outplayed CLG.
And notice the difference in the excitement. They're a little bit more excited here, but very measured after this win for Albus Nox Luna. They expect to be able to play against some of these teams, and they showed why in this match.
And I made a mistake. I should not have said a wildcard region. With with how well Brazil and the CIS have performed, they're stepping up. They're showing individually, pound for pound, they can go toe-to-toe with some of the best teams in the world. And Macro is showing through. This is CIS beating North America. That's what it boils down to. Macro and individual play. Very well done. And now the group is blown wide open.
Yeah, I mean, there were definitely mistakes from both sides in this game, but it just speaks to how wide open this group can be. We have the Rocks Tigers who really turned it on after they had a rough start against Albus Nox, but G2 lost to COG yesterday. COG lost to Albus Nox here. A lot can happen potentially for that second seed in the group. We obviously have so many more games to play right here, but there were some very good plays by Albus Nox in this. Their ability to set up vision, and then Lecrit's zoning and teamfights on Tom Kench, there were very few flaws aside from the ultimates on his kit that you'd be able to criticize in his gameplay.
Yeah, and he honestly had a lot of really good ultimates too. He did have some bad ones, but looking over to CLG, this is something that they're going to have to be able to clean up. They need to be more consistent if they want to be a world's contender. If they want to be fighting for these spots to get out of the group, they took down the #1 European seed, and now losing to Albus Nox Luna here, it speaks so much to their inconsistency.
Yeah, it really does. And I'm actually quite nervous now for G2 because CLG took down, G2 yesterday, day one, fairly convincingly. We know that G2 have had macro-based problems in the past, and now Albus Nox show a very clean, very good game. They will, of course, be playing Rocks Tigers, G2 tomorrow. And this is going to completely rewrite how these teams are preparing, because if anybody under-prepared for INTZ or Albus Nox coming into week one, that's not going to be the case looking forward.
I agree. This is a very exciting group now, and we have a lot of exciting groups here at Worlds.
Oh, yes. Day 3, and we've got more surprising results now that Albus Nox have started their day on a very high note. They send it to Shocks for a word with Lecrit.
Thank you very much, guys. Congratulations, Lecrit, putting that win on the board for Albus Nox Luna in an absolutely crazy game over CLG. Tell me about your strategy with that pole comp and just trying to make them crazy and win the game.
Well, the thing I want to start with is not about the game. I just want to apologize to Rocks Tigers and all fans who watched the game yesterday because I didn't shake hands. That was a bad behavior from me, and I'm really sorry, guys. Okay, and now about the game. You know, guys, in Russia, Dota is kind of a popular game. I'm not sure that I'm allowed to to say that, but in Russia, we don't care about slow game or if something is risky or not. In Russia, we just play the game because otherwise it's not interesting, nor for us, nor for viewers. So that we just try to do our best and to entertain you guys as much as possible.
I am definitely entertained. I think everyone here is entertained, and I think the strategy worked. And I love that you say that, because the thing we know about you is that you love to play hard and fast with that brand, with that Bart, and now with an incredible Tom Kench. What is your philosophy on support and how it should be played?
Well, my philosophy is pretty easy. You must do as much as possible. That's kind of all, but the thing is that when a guy has a nickname Liquid Pix Tom for like a year, you may expect something. So we just went full nuts, and that's it.
You absolutely did, and you were given a lot of tools to do it as well. Were you surprised that you got your hands on the Nidalee for you and the Tom Kench?
Well, actually, we haven't played this setup for pretty long, but our hands didn't forget the stuff, so we just went in, and even with us doing a lot of weird mistakes, the game was ours, we knew it. And in one moment, we just told each other, guys, if we don't get caught now, we're winning game. And everyone was like, okay, and let's do this.
You guys did it. Fantastic win and fantastic words. Finally, how do you think the group is going to play out? Because you put it completely on its head.
Well, as soon as we are representing our region, we expect the best for us. But the thing is that this group is looking pretty interesting, because CLG won G2, we won CLG, you know what this means. And, I expect that we actually can have a shot of getting to quarterfinals, so good luck to us.
Good luck to you guys. Indeed. Fantastic victory, and I believe you as well. Congratulations, Liquid. Keep playing like that, because that's what we love to see. Analyst X, do you guys as well?
Thank you very much, Shock. Keeping things interesting here. Game 1 of day 3. Albus Nox taking down CLG. But, gentlemen, right off the top, I've got to mention, we have our first in Italy game, and it is a success.
I mean, the draft in Gen was really interesting to me, guys. So the big story I took away was they got in that spot where they were like, at their last ban, they're like, okay, we have to choose between Nidalee and Syndra. And Syndra's been the one dominating, so I thought, okay, let's see if they're going to ban one or leave them both up. They trusted in giving up the Syndra, then drafted a poke comp, one of the harder comps to execute. You fall behind on a poke comp, you lose your window, you lose the game. But they drafted a poke comp against Syndra, and we were talking about, okay, they draft Syndra, there's no good laning matchups, what are you going to do? They took the Jace. The Jace could now build very naturally into the defensive Mortius, and from there, they execute an excellent poke comp. And Syndra, she's got a low health pool, she gets poked out, and the strategy worked.
Yeah, I mean, you can build that Hex Drinker. I don't think it means that Jace is a good matchup into Syndra.
No.
It can definitely kill him at level 6 before he gets there. The key is definitely, how they played around it, right? CLG, they had the right idea. They got the Syndra early. They had this winning matchup. They even sent Smithy over there early. He went to the turret level 4, burned the cleanse even off camera before it even panned over there, then returned again. They try and pressure so hard Kira, and he outplays it, saving his flash. Then they turn it around and they actually punish the low mobility of Syndra, which people have been talking about. Everyone's like, oh yeah, Syndra, top tier, lane bully. However, 2 skirmishes back-to-back. Who he goes down, they catch him out.
Exactly, and it's outside of the lane that they're actually punishing this Syndra. So the lane advantage is there, but look at the way he passed through this into 2 members of ANX. They're able to keep themselves alive. He goes down very quickly. And Kobe, this is one of the big things you were looking at.
Exactly. They start the fight around mid lane where they know he just burned both summoners. And you saw in the previous one, Kira still had his flash, gets over the wall and surprises him. And then that one right there in the river trying to get vision back.
But let's talk about how Syndra was played in other games. For example, Faker against Jensen. It was about strong ganking junglers pathing to his lane, initiating after the first stun and picking up kills. He was around the map trying to make plays, not being played through in the mid lane. He wasn't the fulcrum. He was trying to be the one ganking other lanes. And I think that's what really hurt the strategy, because he actually fell pretty far behind.
Well, I've got to push us forward now to some of the more exciting action that happened in the game. I'm sorry, I know you've got... Oh, okay. All right, you want to jump in on that? Okay. All right, so 36 minutes into the game here, ANX interrupts CLG's Baron, come away with a 4-for-1.
This is exactly what I was waiting for, because CLG against Poke team setup, they're going for the Baron without taking anybody down, and from their ANX, they get the initial block on the fight. Stixxay can't get himself in from the bottom side. It's good blocking overall, and this first phase goes so well to ANX. They continue following it up. Liquid again on this Tahm Kench, impact in the team fights, getting the right members, and they can follow on and eventually take CLG down.
It's so funny to watch Liquid on a warpath on this Tahm Kench. Beeline for the backline there, and Smurf had some very good Trundle pillars throughout this game to set up a lot of the kills.
It didn't even end here. The fact that Liquid on 300-400 health stood around was actually the blocker for Stixxay, stopped him from coming in to steal away and try and get a snipe on the Baron. He knew his role, started off tanking 3, then more, then even turned around for the AD carry. What a play.
Huge fight for ANX, picking up the 4 kills plus the Baron. Now let's take a look at the fight that secured the win for Albus Nox. Luna, brought to you by Acer.
So we're late into the game. It's ANX continuing their aggression through this, and you can see the Bard ultimate does hit too, but CLG try and turn it around. Look at how far Darshan is pushed out of this fight, and the health bars are so low, and this time in the fight, the skill shots are all landing for ANX. We saw a couple of messy fights from them, but continually going right into the fight from there with a Baron buff. They can look to close it out.
2 proactive Baron power plays were the story. The first one against the Tide, the vision had fallen down after CLG won their first fight, took that Baron. The second one, that fight, icing on the cake.
Yeah, they caught out Nidalee, and Hui got kind of baited into the middle of that fight there, walks right up on Syndra, and then he's in a bad spot. CLG have to retreat, and they just get chased down.
Player of the game going to Liquid, the man on the stage there for that Tahm Kench play. I mean, we were looking at the Bard and the Brands coming into the tournament, now showcasing his ability to play this champion. Aside from maybe 1 or 2 ultimates that didn't necessarily hit, showing quite some prowess there.
I mean, he knew his role. That's the thing, is that he's known as a Brand player, he's known as a Zyra player, he's known to be more of a damage support, but knowing your role in a tankiness manner, occupying space, is exactly what his team needed. A very brittle comp as a poke comp, but very well executed by Liquid.
Yeah, and I have to say, the other thing we barely didn't touch on, though, was the vision in this game was chaotic. We were toggling back and forth, and there were so many pockets of fog of war. Some of them for ANX resulted in Barons. The CLG ones only resulted in a couple of kills.
All right, well, excitement here in Game 1 on the day, but we've got plenty more to come. Rock, Tigers, and G2 Esports are getting ready to clash on stage, so don't go anywhere, because Worlds 2016 continues in just 3.5 minutes. So what were you trying to tell me there?
Right now.
You wanted to intro that yourself?
Sign in the crowd. Oh, really? Yeah. PogChamp. Yeah, that's hella PogChamp. That's all loud.
Oh, Chaos gets gobbled up, and that's the flash of Tompkins, who he gets spat on, and Elvis Knox get first blood.
It's 2 summoners down, and he is going to be very vulnerable.
And for the second time at Worlds, a wildcard team has taken down another North American team.